Hello everyone, it's story time with Chinwe Oyelidikinwa for the storyteller. Today I'll be telling another story from my book, A Collection of Ghost Stories. And the story I'll be telling today is the Block 6 Hostel Ghost. Now this happened in the eastern part of Nigeria, in a secondary school actually. In the eastern part of Nigeria, it was a girls' secondary school. Well, the day started as every normal day. The hostel mistress, she went round her usual hostel ward in the morning to hostel round. She went round and then she checked to make sure the students had left for school. She actually noticed a movement in one of the rooms in the hostel. She entered into the room and she checked. She saw no one. She actually said, "Who is that? Who is there?" And there was no one there. So she continued her rounds, and after that she went back to join the school assembly. Now later in the evening, the normal student hostel things, the female hostel, the girls were gisting. Senior Adeze and Senior Informa in the one of the female hostel rooms were gisting, talking about their friends, their crush, and whatever. The other junior students were of course listening in on the story, and everyone was finding it interesting, giggling and laughing. And when it was time for lights out, the hostel matron, as usual, came round and they all quickly kept quiet. Students now went into their beds and all pretended to be asleep. After the hostel rounds, the lights out, she went out. And when they heard her footsteps had gone very far, they knew she wasn't coming back. Of course, they continued their story, gisting as usual. And then, suddenly, the senior Adeze noticed a movement outside the window, and it was like a male silhouette that crossed the window, and they were like, "Who is that? Who are you?" And normal female students, thinking that maybe it was a guy who came to spy on them, they were like, "Idiot, nonsense, who are you? Useless you, what are you doing there at this time of the night?" And they were offering their insults, playfully laughing, saying whatever they wanted to say. And after some time, well, they forgot about the guy and whoever it was that passed there, because they didn't see anybody. Nobody replied there. They were just throwing their insults. And Senior Adeze was like, I want to ease myself. Senior Efoma said, okay, let me join you. And female hostel, the girls, they're always scared. The hostel, the bathroom and the toilet is not close to the hostel. They all have to go. And because everyone was scared somehow, they all decided to go together. Everybody was like, me, I want to ease myself. To me, I want to ease myself. So it was as if everyone was going in a group. And Senior Adeze, of course, was at the front. And as she came out of the door, what they saw was that Senior Adeze fell to the ground. Someone had given her a very dirty slap. And then the next thing, she fell on the ground unconscious. Now, the other female students did not see who gave her a slap. What they knew is that they heard a sound and then she was on the ground. And then pandemonium broke out. Everyone was screaming and shouting, and before you know, even the other hostel rooms, they joined in the shouting, not knowing what was happening. But since one room was shouting and screaming, all the other rooms decided to shout and scream. Everybody was shouting, everybody was screaming. The whole school was in a chaotic situation. And then the hostel mistress had to run out from her hostel room to find out what happened. And then when she came, the other school officials also had to come. The students were trying to explain what happened, and they carried Adeze. They carried Adeze to the hospital. She was unconscious. And when she woke up, Adeze was still unconscious. She could not say what had happened to her. And then back in the hostel, the matron was trying to find out what happened. What happened? Okay, what happened before that time? And the students were like that the only thing they remembered was that while they were discussing, they saw a male silhouette, a movement that passed through the window. It was actually Adeze who saw it, and it was Adeze who said, "Who is that? What are you doing there? What are you spying? You are spying females." And they all joined and they were throwing insults. And like the female hostel matron was like, "Did you see anyone?" They said they didn't see anyone, but they were just throwing their insults when Adeze saw the movement and everybody joined and were throwing their insults. And she was like, why she was bothered, she was a little scared because she had noticed a movement earlier in the morning when she was doing her hostel rounds, and she had asked who was that. There was nobody answered her, and she knew that she noticed a movement then, but she kept quiet in her mind. She was like, what is happening? And so Adeze stayed in the hospital for like weeks, and nothing was happening. They had to take her to a spiritualist. It was a spiritualist who did some incantations and whatever, and she was able to start. She got up and she was able to say what happened to her. She narrated that while they were going out to ease themselves, because she was in the front, that a young man stood before her, that he didn't have eyes. His eyes were hollow, and his skin was pale, was like pale skin, and that he just gave her, his face turned to her direction, and he gave her a very dirty slap, and she fell unconscious. That was all she remembered. And then the native doctor did some incantations and told them that actually that was a spirit, a ghost, and that was the ghost that they had insulted when he crossed the hostel window. It was then that they had to investigate, and they actually found out that school was it was used during the Biafra War in Nigeria. Then that school was used as a makeshift hospital where some of the young Biafran soldiers who were brought in, some of them died, and it was also used as a burial ground for some of them. Some of them were buried there during the war, and so it was suspected that maybe that was one of the ghosts of those who died during the war. One of the soldiers who had died, maybe that was his ghost roaming around and had accidentally been noticed by Adeze, who had started the rain of insults that the other students had joined in. And so he decided to teach Adeze a lesson by giving her a slap. Well, the native doctor helped Adeze. Adeze recovered. She didn't go back to that school. In fact, she missed her final exams in that school. She didn't go back there. Her parents took her away to another school. As for the hostel matron, she thanked her stars that she was not the victim that morning, because if she had decided to keep probing, she would have been the one who would have encountered the ghost of the dead soldier. What she did was that she quickly worked her transfer from that school. And I won't lie to you, the school lost some students because most parents withdrew their students from the school and were like, wow, my child will not go to a school that is haunted by ghosts. And so that is the story of the Block 6 hostel ghosts. And I've also heard stories of other school hostels where you have the very popular story of Lady Koi Koi, haunting the school hostel at night. Well, the story of Lady Koi Koi varies a lot, and the story has come to have different versions that we do not know. But this points to the fact that it's possible that some school hostels are haunted actually. We do not have proof of this, but this story was narrated to the storyteller. I hope you enjoyed the story. Once more, this is Chinwe Oyelidi Kenwafo, the storyteller. Thank you.